The baby eagle, even within 3 or 4 days, had grown a bit and made its way to the front of the nest. It is late afternoon and they are waiting for food. The adult is nibbling on some of the food from earlier that day, but you can see here the baby is more aware of its surroundings. It's a little bit more active. It stands up and looks around. It is not at the point of flapping its wings or anything else. Its breathing at sometimes seems laborious, and it is still very small and very fragile and totally dependent. But it is certainly a lot more than just a beak poking out from the lower depths of the nest. This kind of scene often took place, especially in the mornings, where the adult flies in with a sizable fish. You can see the baby is a little bit more attentive, a little bit larger, and seems to be paying a great deal of attention to the adult as the adult feeds it. This interesting little scene took place when the baby was about 3 weeks old. The baby is a little bigger, you can see here, and is more active in going after food. You can see the mother has something. It's not a fish either. I don't know what it is. Maybe a rodent, but you can see the baby go after the food. But something even more interesting then happens. The other adult is about to fly into the nest. Not only does it fly into the nest, it flies in with a stick, and the baby's not sure what to do here. But the two adults start going about tidying up the nest and moving sticks around, and this goes on for a while. I can't stress enough that the feeding process went on all day. It did not occur just in the morning or the evening. Adult birds feed mostly in the morning and evening. Yes, that's true. But here you have the female crying out, waiting for the male, and you'll see the male fly by. You see it flew by. I actually slowed this down because I thought it was interesting. The female gets quite upset, as if to call the male back, come back here, bring the food. At one point, when the baby was about 3 weeks old, I had to leave the area for a couple of weeks, and my good friend, photographer Dan Jasper, was kind enough to take these pictures. And you can see the significant growth of the baby. When I returned from my trip, I couldn't believe it. The baby eagle had just about doubled in size. Not only had it doubled in size, it was getting much more assertive and starting to spread its wings, although not jumping up and down yet. The baby eagle is now approaching 6 weeks old, and you can see its size even in comparison to the mother. And here it starts jumping up and down a bit. It still wants to be fed and needs to be fed by the mother, and this actually goes on, this feeding business goes on for a long time beyond this. Here the mother brings in food early in the morning. That was very typical. And you can hear the baby started to cry out. And believe me when I say its voice developed, as you'll hear later. Here it is spreading its wings and starting to jump again. Here are the two parents in the foreground, and then one of them leaves and brings back a fish. Here's a slow motion of one of the parents bringing in a rodent, again early in the morning. Here's a nice daytime shot, an afternoon shot, just to give you an idea of the size relativity here. But as large as this bird is, it is still highly dependent on the mother or the parents for food. And my experience was that the mother did most of the actual feeding. You can see the spread of its wings and the size that it's getting to. It's approaching 7 to 8 weeks old, and it's jumping around much more confidently now. And it is often left in the nest alone to eat after the food comes. This is the very early morning. This was a frequent occurrence where it would get up, exercise its wings, and then the mother would bring food in. And here is a nice shot in the afternoon of it, of the eagle. You can see a lot of confidence developing here. It was amazing, almost daily, the bird's confidence was gained, and it started branching, jumping onto nearby branches frequently. It would eat, sleep for a while, and then start batting its wings again. I was really fortunate to get this nice afternoon footage. Here's an idea of the wingspan and the size of the bird. And there it is jumping. It sees the mother. It senses the mother nearby. And here comes the parent with food. And you can hear it crying out. Its voice became stronger and stronger over time. Sometimes the baby cried out just when it was exercising or jumping around. But usually that meant that the parent was nearby. And here the parent flies in. You can see the baby on the lower right. Significantly, it's below the nest and flies up to the nest. This bird is ready to fly. And fly it did. I have been going there every day for several weeks, basically. And the next morning, the baby again got on a lower branch and had to go up. It stayed on the lower branch for some time. Then it flew up to the nest, and then it jumped up to a slightly higher branch, as you see here. I'm filming this not knowing what's going to happen next. I thought maybe it was branching more, but that was not the case. And there it went. And then that same afternoon, it had made its way to a nearby tree and then saw the mother come back into the nest and flew back. And you can hear the baby crying out. Believe me, its voice had become quite strong. Here's a parent coming toward the nest. I know it may be difficult to see because of the light. In this case, the baby is in a nearby tree. That's the baby crying out. Lands not far from the nest. Remember, it's just starting to fly, so it doesn't yet have a lot of confidence flying. And sometimes it lands where it wants to, sometimes it takes a little while to get there. Here it is jumping down into the nest. There's a parent above the nest and a parent in the nest. You can see the baby here down below. It seemed to cry out a lot when the adults were around, whether it had food or not, frankly. And if it saw an adult flying in, as here, with food, then it really started elevating its crying. There it is. Now, the baby is up on the upper right. 2 adults are in the nest. 1 adult flies off. And here the baby basically lands on top of the other adult. But the adults are amazingly patient, in my observation. Here's the baby flying around a couple days later. Its learning curve was amazingly steep. I mean, it learned and gained confidence within days. This baby here is now 3 months old and is still being fed by the mother. It still waits near the nest or in nearby trees, but you can see the adults have pretty much decimated the nest. I'm told that they do that to get the baby or babies out of the nest and become more independent. Here's an adult still within eyesight of the nest. These are among the last times I saw the baby. This baby is now 4 months old and still is near the mother, looking for the mother who's in a nearby tree. After this was in early summer. All of the eagles basically disappeared for the rest of the summer. Would they come back in the fall? Yes, they did, but that's another story.